So as many of you Ohio State fans know who've watched this channel, I'm a Michigan fan. And immediately after watching my team, who I think will beat Wisconsin, even if they lose, I'm going to make that reaction video and then cut straight to this game. Because this game intrigues me. This game is the game where I can finally directly compare Ohio State to Michigan and see, okay, who's truly the better team at the moment. And I will say that the score in this, it means something, but even if you beat Rutgers by more than how we beat them, to me, because we play different football, and because you now know to completely take them seriously, whereas there was some questions with us, I will judge more than the score. I will judge turnovers, quarterback play, more importantly, defense. If you beat them by 14 points, but the final score is 56-42, I will not crown you the better team. That likely won't happen. I think seeing how we did against Rutgers, I think you will prove yourselves for now to be the better team, even though I don't have you winning by a majestic 4 touchdowns or whatever. I think you will prove yourselves to be slightly better, is what I'm thinking. And we'll get into more detail about my prediction and all of that. But I'm going to compare these two teams, quarterbacks, defenses, running backs, wide receivers, whatever, and then give my prediction. So first and foremost, we have to start with the quarterback. You got Noah Vedral versus CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud, you may think, oh my gosh, no way. Of course you got to take CJ Stroud. And looks can be deceiving, and they are. Noah Vedral has the higher completion percentage, 67.9, compared to Stroud's 62.4. He's thrown no picks, 5 touchdowns to Stroud's 8. They've been sacked roughly about the same. Vedral's been sacked 5 times, Stroud 4. Stroud has the far higher QB rating, and from what I can assume, that is associated with the fact that on average, he throws for almost 3 yards more per attempt than Vedral does, which highly factors into that formula. And I know that Rutgers, they don't, obviously because of that average, they're not throwing nearly as deep. They can't. And I know the fact that Ohio State has the more talented wide receiver core and defense, so to assume that Vedral's going to have the better day than Stroud tomorrow, I don't know if that's accurate or not. But Stroud has struggled with overthrowing some people. The game against Oregon, they put the game on his shoulders, which is a little unfair. But granted, at the same time, he made a mistake. He's thrown a pick in every game he started in, which is, I would not call a good trait. It's not something Ohio State fans are accustomed to, especially when Ryan Day has been at Ohio State with Haskins and Fields. I'm not saying that he's bad. I think that he is better than a lot of people, a lot of even Buckeye fans give him credit for. You can't expect a Justin Fields and a Haskins every year. I hate to say this, but clearly, after losing to Oregon and Mario Cristobal being a Saban assistant, you are not Alabama yet. You aren't. Alabama might be one of the first schools ever. I mean, you got Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa. I'm going to presume by how Bryce Young's performing, he's going to be drafted in the first round too. They might have one of the first teams, and this is kind of off the top of my head because I don't know how many teams have had 3 first-round drafted QBs in a row. They might be one of the first teams ever. It's crazy. And, I mean, you had Haskins, you had Fields, and that's not even saying that Stroud can't develop into that. I'm just saying right now, you got to give the kid time to grow. Got to give him time. I mean, I did not watch the entirety or most of the Akron Ohio State game. It didn't necessarily intrigue me. Stroud's out. It's Akron. Akron's a gimme win. The only thing that was interesting to me is that Akron scored the first touchdown, and it was after a few minutes. And at that moment, when I was at the Michigan State-Nebraska game, checking my phone for that, I was thinking, oh, geez. Like, please do not tell me. And in the end, you routed them 59-0 after they scored the first touchdown, the final score being 59-7, of course. But I think Stroud should, if healthy, start this game. And I heard a report that said that Garrett Wilson did indeed say that Stroud is healthier, his shoulder looks better, and he's throwing better balls. So we'll see what comes up. And Vedral over here, Vedral was the guy that was admittedly at parts during the Michigan game tearing up my team's secondary. Threw for 5 touchdowns, no picks. Again, 67% completion. I mean, the dude is a solid QB, transfer from Nebraska. So now let's look at the rushing attack of these both teams. With Rutgers, you have Isaiah Pacheco. He's rushed for 259 yards, an average of 4 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. Noah Vedral also has 117 yards, and the backup running back, Kyle Monangai, has rushed for 78 yards and 3 touchdowns of his own. Now, Ohio State obviously has the more dominant rushing game. Trevion Henderson is a true freshman and rushes for nearly 10 yards a carry. That right there frustrates me so much. In fact, every game I watch, and this is again because I am a Michigan fan, when your QB isn't playing well, you go to the ground and no one can stop you. But whatever. That's another conversation for a different day. Henderson's rushed for 439 yards and 6 touchdowns. The dude should win a Heisman during his career at Ohio State. He totally should win the Heisman. The way he's performing right now, got 7 total touchdowns, 6 on the ground. He's dominant in the rushing game. He reads the field well. He's elusive. He's mobile. He's agile. His acceleration and speed are off the charts. Dude's amazing for just a freshman. Imagine how much he's going to grow with Tony Alford as his running backs coach. Mayan Williams is the guy with the next most carries with 32 to Henderson's 46. He has 249 rushing yards on average, gets about 8 yards a carry, and has 1 touchdown. Master Teague has 28 attempts, 162 yards, about 6 yards a carry, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, guys, Ohio State clearly wins at the running position here. The only thing I want to say that gives Rutgers praise here, and this is involving the defense, but it relates directly to the rushing game. Michigan, you got Blake Corum, you have Hassan Haskins. I mean, like some of the better running backs in the nation, honestly. Rutgers held, on average, and granted this is including Cade McNamara running some very inept plays, Rutgers held Michigan to rushing for just under 3 yards a carry. Their rushing defense is legit. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, because I think that'd be a lie, that Henderson's gonna rush for an average of 7-8 yards a carry every time he gets the ball against Rutgers, and maybe he does. But I think Rutgers here is planned. They're calculated. I don't think they're going to be arrogant just because they almost beat Michigan. This is going to be a game. And Greg Schiano, again, is a good coach. But Ohio State wins at the rushing attack. And I think they do, despite some of the complaints about Stroud and the fact that Noah Vedral hasn't turned over the ball. I think Ohio State wins at the passing attack, too. Because you look at receiving. And Ohio State has a total, 1,348 receiving yards, led by Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Chris Olave. All of those 3 combined for 9 touchdowns. They, on average, per reception they get about 17 yards. You compare that to Rutgers, who their top 3 wide receivers I mean, their whole team combines for 776 receiving yards. Their top 3 wide receivers combine for just over 400 and 3 touchdowns. Ohio State obviously has the better wide receivers here. But Rutgers does have Bo Melton and Aaron Cruikshank. And Cruikshank is, I believe, a transfer from Wisconsin, who is also dangerous at the return game, from what I hear. And Melton, 24 receptions, 253 yards, and 2 touchdowns, is obviously their main guy. He also has 24 receptions, and the guy after him in Cruikshank only has 14. So look out for Melton and look out for Cruikshank in not only the receiving game, but also in the return game. Now we move on to the defenses. And the defenses, I'm not going to talk about them too much because there's a lot of parts to it. But I'm going to talk about the fact that I looked at Ohio State has 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Rutgers did not play Oregon, but they did play a Syracuse team who's at least semi-solid from how they beat Liberty. Rutgers has forced 5 fumbles. They have 5 fumble recoveries. They have 3 picks and 15 passes defended. It's insanity. It's crazy. The fact that Rutgers has forced more turnovers and gifted less turnovers, in my opinion, tells me everything I need to know. Everything on how this game could, like the parameters for how this game could play out. The turnovers here for Rutgers tell me that they actually have a chance to win. They don't turn over the ball, and Stroud, throws a couple bad passes that fall into the wrong hands, or Henderson or a running back fumbles, it could be a game-changing moment. But I don't think so. And this is what's going to lead into my final prediction in just a few seconds. But before that, I just wanted to discuss some of the leaders on the defense. Ronnie Hickman for Ohio State leads in total tackles. I believe that Haskell Garrett, yes, the defensive tackle, and Tyleik Williams, both defensive tackles, lead in sacks, each with 3. And then with Ohio State, you got Ronnie Hickman with 2 picks as well, and Cameron Martinez and Cody Simon, defensive back and linebacker respectively, have each an interception as well. Rutgers, you got Alankunle Fatukasi at the linebacker position, who leads in total tackles and 3.5 sacks. Also a forced fumble. Quite impressive. Avery Young is second in total tackles. He also has a sack and a forced fumble, and he's a defensive back. To me, that's just, I kind of find that pretty crazy. Max Melton, defensive back, has 2 picks and 4 passes defended, even a pick 6. Those are just some names on the defensive side of the ball, in case you wanted to know some guys who might and probably will stick out. Finally, my prediction. My prediction here is that you win. I am trying to not give exact estimates here because, I've learned just got to watch the game. Giving exact predictions to me is somewhat discouraging if I get them wrong, which is likely so, and also in retrospect kind of pointless. But I think, just to estimate it, you win by around 14 to 21 points, and you make some mistakes. So you don't play the perfect game that will restore all hope, but you don't lose either, nor do you pull a Michigan and almost let them pull away. If anything, Rutgers kind of did this to you last year where they closed it at the end. But what this Ohio State team has seemed to do, they pull away late. And that's not necessarily a trait you always want against a bigger, better team like, for example, Oregon, where you finally start clicking in the 4th, but it's too late. But against these smaller teams, it'll more than get the job done because you have the better talent, you have the better offense. While you don't have the more efficient defense, your defense is certainly more talented, and Ryan Day and the staff are trying to fix it. And maybe we will see some some improvement as well this Saturday at 3:30. Rutgers' only advantages here is the turnover margin. I certainly expect Rutgers to win the turnover battle here. That will be the one key area of mistakes that everyone will still likely be somewhat scratching their heads about after this Ohio State victory, which again, I think will be between 2 to 3 touchdowns. That's all I have to say for this video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can get notifications for my videos the minute they come out. Join this awesome community. Help me reach 1,500 subscribers, and from there, 2,000. It would be amazing. This community is awesome. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you around.